Riser, you are, and you've been at it pretty much since yesterday, making the rounds. So what I'd like us to talk about this morning is something that really has been on the cards for quite a long time. We do have a bloated cabinet. We do have several departments. Canada, for example, only has 15 as far as ministers are concerned. That is something that Finance Minister also pointed out yesterday, that there will be a cut as far as government departments are concerned. Which ones do you think should go? Which ones do you think are overkill and unnecessary?
Good morning to you, man. Well, imagine you are the Deputy Minister of Sport. What do you do? I ask myself this question. So what is the job of the Deputy Minister of Sport? Does he sit in front of TV and watch sport all the time? What's his job? So that's an obvious department that I would certainly get rid of, the Department of Sport. You just don't need that. Another department that I will get rid of is certainly a small business. Small business has been a complete, total disaster. I mean, how many small businesses have been created? Another department, and I'm sorry to say this, Dawie, and another department that I would get rid of is the Department of Women and Children. The departments like that, simply, there's no need for them to exist. Other departments that can be consolidated into one is the Department of Education, for example. We've got two departments of education. Put that into one. And there are many other examples. The state is simply bloated. There are too many cabinet ministers. There are too many departments. There are too many deputy ministers. There are too many director generals. And all of them got black cars and blue lights and secretaries and everything that go with that. There's a huge number of people that are currently so-called serving in cabinet that simply should not be there.
As far as the deputy ministers are concerned, are you proposing an all-round elimination of that portfolio of deputy minister?
Remember what you should have. You should have a political head of a certain department, of course. But then the people actually doing the jobs are the bureaucrats behind that, the director generals, for example. That's what you need. You don't need deputy ministers. You need director generals. You can have one minister that is in charge of a number of departments and the various director generals that are responsible for the specific departments, as an example. Remember, this is the prerogative of the president to decide who should be in cabinet. And the president has actually created two cabinets. The one is serving in the presidency itself. There are a number of ministers in the presidency. A very good example is the Minister of Electricity. We should not have a Minister of Electricity. That's a job of the Minister of State-owned enterprises, and the electricity should be run by a Director General, as an example. But we've got two cabinets, the one in the presidency and the normal one. And the reason why we have two cabinets is because the normal cabinet is not functioning properly. So the president thinks it's a good idea to create another kind of cabinet. So we basically have two cabinets currently, one serving with the president, the other is the so-called normal cabinet in South Africa. So clearly, cabinet or the ministers in South Africa are not doing a good job.
You also mentioned the Ministry of Small Business, and I'm wondering, would this not be like shooting yourself in the foot? Because business is exactly what it is that we ought to be focusing on in order to stimulate the economy, to bring more finances into the kitty and into the national purse. And is it not really a matter of that portfolio not performing at its peak and not doing what it ought to be doing in order to get the results that we need?
No, there's this romantic idea about small business. Like, small business is the key to economic success. Small business is the thing that we need to support in South Africa, and I'm not against small business. But let's just understand about small business. Small businesses do not survive. The majority of them simply do not survive.
And the question is why, Dawie? The question is why?
But let me just make this point. First of all, they don't survive. Secondly, quite often small businesses are simply there for individuals to survive because there are no other options. They also do not create employment. They also do not pay taxes. The guys that are paying taxes are the medium and the larger business in South Africa. There are you want small businesses for two reasons and two reasons only. The one is for certain niche markets. Yes, there are places for small business in certain niche markets, like, for example, specialists in some sort of field. Secondly, you want a small business because a small business can become a medium-sized business and eventually a big business. That's why you need small businesses. And what we need to do is to create a very friendly environment for all businesses in South Africa, to make it easier for all businesses to thrive in South Africa. If you really want to create business in South Africa, make sure there's electricity, make sure the local authorities work properly, make sure that you have the necessary skills in the country, make sure that you have pavements, make sure you have a police service that works properly. That's what you need to do. Don't need to go and fund small businesses. We have something. We've got IDC, for example, that's supposed to fund business generally. So stop with this romantic idea that small businesses is the key to everything. The reason why we have so many small businesses is because people are doing that simply to survive. We need a thriving business environment, a business community in South Africa, and we can't have that with a dysfunctional state the way that we have currently.
So with that said, Dawie, do we then need a Ministry of Business? Not small business, but business.
No, we don't. Well, if we need a minister for business, then we need to simply cut back on all this red tape, making it extremely difficult to do business in South Africa. You have to register people, you have to register for taxes, and you have to stand in queues and wait for everything. Try to get the visa for a scarce skills, a foreigner to come and work for you with a certain scarce skills. Try to get a visa for that. It is nearly impossible to do that because the state is in the way, the bureaucracy is in the way, and we need to fix that, and we need to cut the red tape in the country.
So if there is to be a cut down, which we know there is going to be, of the various departments, how much would that save? How much would it actually bring back into the national kitty?
Really not that much. Actually, not really that much, because it's actually a drop in the ocean here, because the real money goes to things like, for example, education. The real money goes to the various social services. The so-called social wage is approximately 60% of the total budget. So the only value that we will get is there's a symbolic value in it, in that government will prove that they really want to cut back on this excesses. And something else that I think should be cut back is the VIP protection unit. We need to get rid of that completely. We've got a police force. Why do we need a VIP protection unit? But the real money goes to things like, for example, education. So we need to improve the efficiency of things like, for example, education. The biggest expense item is education. We spend more on education than most countries in the world in absolute and in relative terms. But if you look at the outcome of South Africa's education, it's not only bad, it is quite often the worst in the world. So clearly, it's not a matter of money. Money is not the issue. We've got another issue, and I think the other issue is certainly leadership in the country.
And that perhaps is another question that I wanted to ask you, Dawie. The money is there. And if you give the money to exactly the same people that you were giving money to beforehand, and they've proven and they've shown you that they're unable to manage that money, they're unable to actually grow that money, what is going to be different now? Just putting more money in exactly the same place, expecting different results. Are we sitting here as a country with our fingers crossed and hoping against hope?
Yeah, I think that is the issue. So what is wrong? I think there are three things wrong in the country. Three major challenges to whoever's in charge of the country. The first one is the local authorities. Now, I can give you all sort of numbers, but the local authorities are, well, more than 70% of them are basically dysfunctional. The second one is the state-owned enterprises. We know about the state-owned enterprises. And the third one is what we heard about yesterday, national accounts. Now, all these three major problems in South Africa was caused by the ANC government. Now, we still have an ANC government. They caused these problems. Do you think they're going to fix that? I really doubt that. Because you need the local authorities for UK the deployment. You need the state-owned enterprises for exactly the same. You need the national accounts to make sure that you remain in office, because that's why the Minister of Finance can't really cut back on state spending, because there's an election around the corner. So they're the guys that caused the problems, and now we expect them to fix it. I really doubt that.
Dawie Roodt, thank you for your time and your insight this morning. You have yourself a good day further.